In today's episode of What's Going On with Shipping, the Canadian bulker Tim S. Dool grounds in the St. Lawrence Seaway. I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So, on November 23rd, 2024, the Canadian bulker Tim S. Dool, Canadian flag vessel, 57 years old, was heading downbound on the St. Lawrence Seaway when it missed a turn and went aground on Chrysler Shoal. The vessel is still grounded at this time. We're going to take a look at the grounding, take a look at the ship, and understand what this means for shipping going forward. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to be alerted about new videos as they come out. Also, proud to announce that What's Going On with Shipping is now a podcast. It is on Spotify. So if you want to follow us, hop on over to Spotify and you can listen to the dulcet tones of Sal Mercogliano talking about shipping. So here's the story over at G Captain Mike Schuller, Canadian freighter Tim S. Dool, hard aground in the St. Lawrence Seaway. We're going to talk about what we mean by hard aground here. Mike Folsom over at the Seaway Ship Watchers Network. I'll have the link to this below. Ship Watchers is a great way to understand what's going on the Seaway. They have a podcast. They're on Facebook. They're on X. They're all over the place. But Mike Folsom does a great job. This is his update from this morning. Ship remains aground on Chrysler Shoal. Divers were on scene Monday. A salvage plan was being developed. Tug assistance is expected to be dispatched as early as this morning. Removal looks to be at least a few days from now. I agree with that. It may actually be a bit longer. Further delay detail expected later today. Here's imagery of the ship. You'll see just forward of the vessel here is a large green Raycon buoy. Raycons are buoys that when you hit it with a radar beam, it shows up on your radar scope. This is a green buoy. The Tim S. Dool was supposed to take this ship down its starboard side. That is the right side of the vessel, is the side of the vessel looking toward the camera here. So the ship is to the right of the channel. It's actually lined up directly on this green buoy. What you will also notice is a lot of the vessel's boot topping. This is the bottom paint is showing from the bow all the way down here to the stern. This is a good indication that this ship is fully aground because as far as we know, the ship was loaded with about 27,000 tons of Canadian wheat. Its full maximum capacity is 28,000 tons. This is an image showing the bow of the vessel as it is currently grounded. Notice its port anchor is set down, so it has it underfoot, but most importantly, the ship is up quite a bit out of the water. And the reason we know this is from an earlier photo of the ship showing the bow down quite a bit. So we're looking at between 3 to 5 feet of the bow is raised up out of the water. That's a good indication that the ship is hard aground forward. The problem is the ship may be aground over its entire length. So this is a map of the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence Seaway. For those of you unaware of America's fourth coast, it is a vital waterway in both the United States and Canada. Over 3,934 vessel movements on this system last year, as reported by the St. Lawrence Seaway system. 37.6 million tons of cargo are moved. 60% of that is bulk, largely ore. 5% is coal, and 28% is grain, including the shipment that we know is on board the Tim S. Dool. Dool was coming from Lake Superior up in Thunder Bay. The ship was sailing down Superior, went through the Soo Locks in November, very eerie to a 50-year-old voyage that just took place that was commemorated. That's the voyage of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Came on to Lake Huron, sailed past Detroit and Windsor, onto Lake Erie. It headed into the Welland Canal, series of 8 locks connecting Erie to Ontario. The Welland Canal is the limitation on the Great Lakes. That is why Dool is 225.5 meters long. That's 730 feet. For those of you south of the 49th parallel, that is the length of the locks that restrict vessels going between Erie and Ontario. The ship went up onto Ontario, entered the St. Lawrence Seaway, came through the Iroquois locks, those are Canadian locks, and grounded on the American side of the St. Lawrence before it reached the Eisenhower Canal. This is a map from Marine Traffic showing you voyages of the ship since the season opened back in March. Typically, a Great Lakes season runs from roughly the end of March to the end of December. It depends on weather and ice conditions, but this year it opened up in March. The ship was actually over here in Hamilton, up along Lake Ontario. The ship got underway, and for this voyage, the ship had sailed from Thunder Bay on November 17th, made its passage through the Sioux, through Huron, Erie, through the Welland Canal, Ontario, and then grounded on the 23rd. The ship was heading to the ports up along the Gulf of St. Lawrence to offload its grain and transfer them to much larger bulk carriers that deliver the grain overseas. Going to hop over here to marine traffic again and show you the specifics of Tim S. Dool. You can see it flashing here just below the New York border before you get to New York and Canada. It is on the U.S. side. As we zoom in here, you'll see the vessel. Notice traffic is still moving in the area. Here we see an outgoing vessel. So we are seeing vessels moving in. Where the Dool is outside the channel. So we've had ships moving by. They will slow down as they pass to prevent wave and displacement of water pushing the Dool further onto the embankment. We're going to come over here and switch over to our nautical chart feature. And what you'll see here is how the Dool is grounded. This is the green Raycon buoy. This is that buoy you saw at the very front of the vessel. And notice how Dool is completely on the shoal. This is a 10-meter shoal, so about 32 feet of water right here. And when you come to the stern, you'll notice that it's 5.8 meters here at the stern of the vessel. And the ship is outside the channel. The way you identify channels is through buoys. I know I'm going to get email, text, and comments below. The way we say buoys is not boy. I know they say boy over in England. In the U.S., it's buoys. Sorry, that's just, I'm an American. I'm going to pronounce it a buoy. I've always called them buoys. You'll notice a green buoy here, and here. This is shoals right here. When you're heading down the St. Lawrence, and even though you're heading northeast, you're heading downriver, you want the red buoys on your left side, your port side. You want the green buoys on your starboard side. So Dool was in the channel here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit its past track up here, and you'll see the image of the track. It takes you all the way from the Welland Canal to the position it is in currently. I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit for you, and you'll see the vessel. Now, I have to take a quick note here. AIS, the Automated Information or Identification System that is used here, on marine traffic, takes snapshots of the ship's position. It indicates here, if you look at this, that the ship crossed this shoal. It didn't. I'll show you in the replay here in a minute. It was actually in channel coming here, made the turn, and as the vessel sailed, it actually missed its turn and wound up going on the embankment. Let's go ahead and show you the replay. So here's Dool. She's come through the Iroquois locks. She is now making a turn. You'll notice green and red buoys, red to the port, green to starboard. The vessel is making a little bit over 10 knots. The St. Lawrence is extremely tight. There is not a lot of giveaway here in the St. Lawrence. So you got to be extremely careful and make your turns. Typically, buoys are marked so that when you're abeam of them, that's the time you know to be making your turn. As you watch this replay, Dool will make that turn, avoid the shoal right here. It's coming up on Gooseneck Island Shoal. Notice how it's not following that AIS track. It is outside of here. It is coming right between, goalposting between the red and the green buoys and making its turn here. It is now heading down channel. As it comes abeam of this red buoy right here, the ship should turn to port, make that turn to left, and going at 10 knots. And what we notice here, the ship is not making that turn. It starts to make the turn, but it's making the turn too late. By the time it's executing the turn, the ship is going to impact on the shoal. It is going to come into the shoal at an angle. Remember, ships don't steer like your car. When you turn the wheel on a ship, you kick the stern out. The back end will pivot out. The bow will turn. So about a third of the way down the length of the ship is the pivot point. So the bow will start to kick out. The 2/3 after that will kick to the other way. So as you turn the wheel to port, the stern will kick out to starboard. And the ship is going to basically sideswipe into the shoal here. And you see it's still moving. The momentum is actually still pushing the vessel. And that indicates that the 28,000-ton vessel was being pushed up here onto the shoal until it comes to a complete stop, fortunately just short of the Raycon buoy. And that is the grounding of the vessel as we speak. We're not exactly sure what caused it to miss its turn. There's only two things that ever does it. It's human error or it's mechanical error. Mechanical error, you turn, the rudder doesn't turn. Is there a hydraulic problem, electrical problem? We don't know. Is there a human problem? Hey, officer on deck, pilot missed the turn, therefore the vessel went wide. The ship had navigated through the lower St. Lawrence or the upper St. Lawrence without a problem. It is only here that it experiences this issue as it goes forward. When you look at the Tim S. Dool, she has got a series of 6 holes. There is going to be a question about whether or not the ship has suffered hull damage. This is a 57-year-old ship. 57-year-old ships' hulls are built like battleships. However, they are susceptible to cracking over time. We saw that with some vessels past year on the Great Lakes. There is a potential that even though you have very thick hulls on here, it's fresh water, you don't have the corrosion you have in salt water, that these hulls may not withstand the damage from a grounding. If this vessel is taking water in the hulls, that grain starts turning to mush, oatmeal, gets heavier. It'll be much more difficult to get off. And the problem is going to be how much of this vessel is out of the water. Showed you that it's in a 10-meter shoal. That means there's less than 10 meters. That means less than 32 feet of water. It showed at the stern 5.8 meters. So you're talking at about 18, 19 feet at the stern. When you look at the bow of this vessel, I zoomed in here to show you, you'll see the draft marks. So these draft marks are in feet. The way you measure draft marks on the vessel is when the water is at the bottom of the number, that is the even amount. So here you see 23. If the water is right at the bottom of 23, you're at 23 feet. If it's halfway up the number, it's 23 feet 3 inches. If it covers the number, 23.6, and then there's a 6-inch space to the next number. So not exactly science, you got to kind of eyeball it. But the thing to note here is you see 23, up here is 28, and we know that this was all submerged under. You didn't see the draft marks, but the vessel was underway. So normally this ship is drawing just over 28 feet of water, and what we're seeing is over 5 feet of the bow is up out of the water. And as we saw in the picture earlier here, we are seeing the full length of the bow and stern up out of the water, which may indicate the vessel is fully aground on the shoal. That may require an offload of the grain off the ship. That will involve barges or other ships. It'll also involve bringing equipment out. This is not a self-sustaining offloading vessel, so you're going to have to bring material cranes with abilities to get the grain out of the hold. This could become a long, complicated salvage operation if you have to remove that much weight from the vessel. We saw a very similar circumstance happen 2 years ago when the Everforward leaving Baltimore missed a turn and went aground in the Chesapeake Bay. That ship ran straight aground and the entire length of the vessel was grounded. They actually had to remove containers off the vessel. The goal in that salvage was to lighten the stern of the vessel, get the stern into deeper water, then using the ship's engines and tugs, pull the vessel off. You may see a very similar situation here with the Tim S. Dool. So a quick update on the grounding of the ship in the St. Lawrence. Fortunately, it has not blocked the channel. We still have free movement. There are some issues here. Number one, obviously, it is November, late November. We are seeing the potential shutdown of the St. Lawrence by the end of December, so you are on a kind of a time limit to get the ship out, get the cargo off, and get it moved. Fortunately, that part of the St. Lawrence doesn't tend to ice up very quickly as much as the lakes do, so you got a little bit of time to do that. But what we're seeing here is very common, unfortunately, in a very restricted waterway like the St. Lawrence, where you get groundings like this. Not much chance of this ship being hacked for those of you asking. 57-year-old ship. The electronics are not going to be that much. Plus, the question is, why? Why ground a 57-year-old grain carrier coming out? This is obviously either human or mechanical. A little bit of jurisdictional issue here. The ship is on the American side of the St. Lawrence, so there could be jurisdiction with the U.S. Coast Guard involved. Canadian flag vessel with probably a foreign crew on board. Canadian ships on the Great Lakes have a lot of foreign crew members on board. Algoma Central Corporation is a Canadian corporation, so just issues along with that. And obviously you want to get the grain out for delivery overseas. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be alerted about new videos as they come out. Give it a thumbs up, share it across social media, and if you can, support the page. How do you do that? Hit the super thanks button down below or head on over to Patreon and become a monthly, yearly subscriber. Again, we are on Spotify, so day or two after I do these broadcasts, I upload them to Spotify. You can download them and listen to them at your convenience. Till the next episode, Sal, signing off.